So first of all, yeah, great to be back in a very yeah, kind of strange E3 again, a virtual one. But I want to. It's like almost 12. I want to raise a beer here on yeah on the community and as well yeah having such event even in this kind of strange times during COVID-19. So cheers on the community and yeah let's let's come back like hopefully in the next E3 and do that cheers physically. So in the next 30-40 minutes ish, depending as well on the amount of questions you might have, I will talk and walk you through what MSIX Appetite is, what are the recent updates, how does it look and feel, and how is it like different from AppV, and how does AppV look like in the future? What are the paths or steps that you can take to migrate from AppV to MSIX? All kinds of stuff that I will cover in this presentation. So for the folks that don't know me, I'm Christian Brinkhoff. I work as a program manager right now at Microsoft. I previously worked for Microsoft as part of the FSLogix acquisition, and as well as in global black belts for Windows Virtual Desktop. I recently changed to engineering, where I'm now focusing on yeah, more like product development and the strategy of the product. If you want to connect with me, feel free to do so on Twitter or on LinkedIn. So let's start with a demo. And that demo shows you the experience for an end user and as well the admin of MSIX Appetite in the new configuration menu in the Azure portal within Windows Virtual Desktop. So let's start the demo here. And here you can see an end user searching for Notepad++, which is not available here in the start menu. So once we go in the new Azure portal to the host pool settings, you can shortly add an MSIX Appetite package here directly stored on Azure Files or Azure NetApp Files as an example, or an own file server. It detects the package, the application inside the VHD, and you can configure that application with a custom display name, for example. Once you're ready with that, it will be listed in that MSIX packages menu, which will land soon. After that, you configure the assignment, so you can do that based on a user or an Active Directory group. And then when the user logs back on, he or she will see Notepad++ popping up in the session without any installation happening. The VHD or VHDX or SimFS, which I'm going to talk about later on as well, which is a new file format container format. It will inject the application, so it will load the MSIX package, the application, and before it does that or can do that, it mounts that VHD to the virtual machine, whether it's like a single session or multi-session. The real yeah, positive and yeah, benefit will happen on multi-session, of course, because you have multiple users connecting to the same application, and you only have to connect it once. So one connection is happening to the VHD, and for example, 20 users can use that same VHD while using the same application, and that VHD is in read-only mode, and it will capture everything that's specific to that application inside the profile. So let's talk and level set a little bit what happened in the past. So in the past, of course, and still today, you can install applications via an executable MSI. Microsoft Windows click once has been previously around. AppV, of course, which is the most like yeah, popular, I guess, which is coming from SoftGrid in the past and acquired by Microsoft and then merged into AppV. But AppV is something that has been around for a while and is now being improved and yeah, relaunched in a new sort of jacket created by Microsoft itself, and that's called MSIX or MSIX, not Appetite. Appetite is the part that we add to make it more supported for a virtual desktop environment, and of course PowerShell. And all those options, capabilities will now merge into MSIX, and with MSIX Appetite, we bring MSIX better and more efficient to your virtual desktop environment, which can be Windows Virtual Desktop, of course, Citrix on Azure with Windows Virtual Desktop, VMware, doesn't really matter, and as well on-prem if you prefer that, of course. So if we look to the VDI Like a Pro survey, which we did this year in around like May timeframe, we asked the question, and we do that every year, which application isolation virtualization solution is used within your environment. So as you can see here, and let me mark here this, you can see that app V here and here is still the most popular product to do app virtualization on a virtual environment after, of course, just install the application inside the image, which is an option, of course, as well. But not very efficient, because you need to open up the image, you need to maintain that image and install, create a new version, and then capture it, log all the users off. And with MSIX app attach, or as well with FV, you can do that like more on the fly in the user session itself. But FV has some downsides as well with pre-caching and other stuff, and that's where MSIX app attach comes in more efficiently. So let's start with the basics, because everybody needs to understand a little bit more about what are the basics, what are the options that we currently have, and how does MSIX app attach look. So if we look at the basics of a virtual desktop environment, you have apps, you have the user profile, you have the operating system, of course. With the user profile, with, for example, FSLogix, we already like go one step beyond putting everything in like the image or having a local profile or a roaming profile. We already like separate that from the operating system layer, so that already gets us halfway there, so to say, with the FSLogix acquisition with the profile container. But the applications, as part of Microsoft, there wasn't a really good way of separating the apps and doing application maintenance more efficiently, other than using AppV, for example. So let's cover some of the options first before I jump into the real MSIX app attach information and as well the overview. So the current options that you have, of course, is create multiple images by, for example, department, by role. I think pretty much everybody on this presentation is doing this or has been doing this for a while, and this creates pretty overhead in terms of creating those images, maintaining those images. If you need to update an application for all 3 images, you need to open up all those 3 images and need to consolidate those. You can do it automated, but still you need to do it 3 times, for example, for 3 different images. So if we take the other option that you can take, is just create one big mega image and put all your applications inside that image, and then use that image as a baseline and create like application groups and only show the application to the specific user. The downside of this is that you have a very large image that could like create a bad like experience, performance, and if you break something, you need to completely rebuild that image. So not very efficiently. What you can do in this use case as well is use FSLogix app masking, and with app masking you can hide those applications as well, but still the same downsides and cons, more cons instead of pros. And as well, there's an option to stream applications. Some other vendor solutions have options for that, but that has not been proven to be very efficient. So let's frame all those options and add MSIX app attach to the option as well. So option 1, of course, multiple images by role. Option 2, one big mega image with, for example, app masking to hide those applications. I'm not sure if everybody knows what app masking is, but app masking is a product of FSLogix where you can separate applications inside the image via the filter driver to hide them completely, so sort of trick the operating system. Same thing what we do with FSLogix profile container. And now we have option number 3, MSIX app attach, which can create a very thin base image, because you don't have to install the applications that are supported for MSIX inside that image, and you can mount them on the fly, and you can add updated packages more easily. So let me frame that a little bit more, like inside a traditional versus MSIX app attach picture here. So on the left side you see the traditional scenario, multiple images per department, sales, HR, for example, and you put all those applications in, and the user profile is like using a roaming profile kind of technology. So in a more modern kind of fashion, you use MSIX app attach for all your applications, and you use the MSIX profile container to separate the application or the profile layer next to the application layer from your golden image. So you can see that over here, you have, like, for example, 3 different VMs, you have 1 golden image, and you have your MSIX profile container separated from the golden image. So you do that from the side of the application to make that personalized. And then you have MSIX app attach for all your applications that you inject like adaptive to your golden image separately from the golden image. So you do that over the network, so that is all block based. You can store it on like an SMB file share. If you do it on Azure, most likely Azure Files, and you inject then the application inside your virtual machine, and the disk will be read-only, and the application will be visible as shown in the demo for the end user. So let me show a little bit more information how that process works from a more high-level architecture process perspective. So here you have the user, and when the user connects to, for example, Windows Virtual Desktop, he or she gets an token back, and the token holds as well the application and as well the host pool and the designated host that comes after as part of the brokering service. So the first thing that will happen is the load of our user profile, which happens with MSIX profile container, and on the other side, the applications will be loaded if you use MSIX app attach separately, and that happens in the new recently announced Azure Portal integration that I showed in the video in the demo in the beginning, all through the RD agent. So you don't have to use PowerShell or the modules anymore that we had on the docs page, but you can do that directly via the RD agent that corresponds with the settings that you set in the Azure Portal. So altogether, it looks like this if the applications are registered and available for the end user. So let me share some insights on the packaging process flow, because that's important to understand as well. So what I just showed was the end user to the application experience, but if you want to package an application like an MSIX app attach application, you first need to create an MSIX package. So that's pretty similar as how you did it for AppV. So you need to open up the MSIX packaging tool. You need to create that package first. It needs to be a signed package as well. So be aware that you have to have either a root CA internally with certificates that you can apply, so you can do the signing, or a public one. So there always needs to be a certificate assigned to the application, which can be your organization. So it doesn't have to be a personal certificate per every application. So once you do that, you create an MSIX package. So you just do next finish, you do the installation. You can customize that as well afterwards and start it to test it. If everything works fine, you capture that package and you merge it into an MSIX package, and then you have a notepad.msix package, so to say. So after that, you need to expand that. So basically, unzip, let's say it like that, that package with the SDK of MSIX inside the VHD or inside the SIM full file format extension that we're going to talk about later on as well. And if you're done with that, you have your ACLs, your ACLs configured properly inside that VHD, and that MSIX is completely available with like the file format of MSIX inside that VHD. So then it's ready to use it and to mount it inside the Azure portal, for example. So this is a process that is like the manual approach. Most likely, if you have an application vendor or something like that, he or she will provide you the package directly in MSIX format, of course. After that, you have to stage the container. So that's what happening first. So the VHD, for example, will be mounted to the session host, and then when that is pre-mounted, then the application, the MSIX, will be registered via the PowerShell commands that are available for that on the back, and then it will be registered as an AppX file format inside your session. So that's the registration. You can delay the registration as well. So that means if you have dependencies on other apps that are inside that same VHD. You can do like delays and prioritization to make that possible, but that's optional. And then in the end, the applications will be loaded to to the user. So that's sort of like from an packaging process, staging, and as well registration process point of view, what happens. And as I said earlier, most likely the ISV will provide you an MSIX package, and they tested that in their own environment. So you only have to create that VHD or VHDX or a SIM file FS container, and then you can use it. Or perhaps the ISV provides you altogether like the VHDX already inside. That's like how we want to see it, but I think the first step would be that they provide an MSIX file format. So one of the things that you need to keep in mind that MSIX, like MSIX as an application, the application virtualization service, is available since Windows 10 build 2004, also known as the spring update of Windows 10 or higher, of course. So the late fall release of Windows 10 has it, of course, as well, and later editions as well. That is the operating system that you need to use to leverage the APIs that are inside the operating system to load and register an MSIX. So that's the baseline that you need to use. And in the Azure portal, of course, you can select 2004 and as well the new file release to use that as a baseline. And you can use as just MSIX itself that on on-premises environments as well. Only the integration with the Azure portal for Windows Virtual Desktop and as well the RD agent, that's something that that is not available yet on-prem. We can I can start the discussion later on as well on that, because you can ask as a one ask request or a user voice request, that's the right term, to request on-premises support as well for MSIX app attach. So what you have to do to create that package, I already explained the process, so to say, but what you have to do from a more packaging process standpoint is first download the MSIX packaging tool. So you can do that in the Windows store that looks like this. Then you launch it. You get this option then to select to modify an application package yourself that is already existing, or you can create a new one, as you can see over here. So then you click on create a new package. Of course, you can give it a package name, a display name for that package. Here's that certificate that I just mentioned. So that's something you can select over here. So make sure that the certificate is available inside the your virtual machine or physical desktop or wherever you create this application package on. So you can use it here, or you can upload it separately via PFX file, as an example, with the signed certificate inside as well, with the private key that you need to enter. So that's an option. The display name here, a version name, and some description if you prefer to enter that. Then you start the installation. So you click on next within a Notepad or any custom Win32 application if you prefer that. And then in the end, you save the MSIX package. As you can see here, you can create an own name, but that's the name that is automatically being created based on the string format that you get as part of this package. So then you save it somewhere on your machine or on your management machine, and then you start creating that to expand to a VHD or VHDX, for example. And that expansion can happen via the SDK, very easily via a command that you can enter in. It's available on Docs and on my blog as well. If you search on my blog, christianbrinkhoff.com, and search for MSIX app attach, there's a step as well to do so, and where to download that SDK. So when you're done with that, you store that VHD or VHDX on a file share that is accessible from for example, your Azure Windows Virtual Desktop environment, and the rights need to be set as based on the computer account. So the computer account, the session node needs to be privileged to access that VHD. And the user itself as well, and the computer account rights are needed for this configuration, otherwise it cannot detect the applications that are inside the VHD. And here are the same steps that I showed in the demo, and a display name. You can change the icon if you prefer that. And here you can change as well how you want to do the registration. If you want to do it like directly, or you want to do it in a pre-staging and a registration manner separately, or you want to delay it, that's something you can do here. And here you can set it to no or yes if you want to just put it in but not activate it yet for the user. And you can create publish applications, so remote apps as well based on this. So here you can enter as well that it loads inside the full desktop session, but you can do it as well from a remote app perspective. So that's both like supported, and then you see the application listed here as well. And here you can see as well the new .sim file format, packaging format, which is faster, more efficient because it doesn't do that extra overhead for the mounting process as VHD or VHDX does. I have a more like in-depth slide on that later on as well that shows the differences in resource consumption and load time in comparison to VHD and VHDX and the .sim. So after this, you did the registration, or let's go one back. You did the creation of the MSIX. You merged it into an MSIX app attach package, so in a VHD or VHDX, and you did the configuration in the Azure portal. So at that moment, you basically move over to the RD agent. That's the sort of VDA, the agent that we use inside a session host to connect to the brokering to the control plane service. And with this new Azure portal integration, everything of that staging, registration, and as well deregistration and destaging if the user logs off or you reboot the machine, so you basically unchain that VHD and do the deregistration of the MSIX package, that's all consolidated inside the agent. So no PowerShell or scripting or whatsoever is needed anymore for that. So that's great news because that sort of was not like very positive received by customers, because that created some challenges with, like, for example, using filtering based on Azure Active Directory groups or AD groups, and that's now possible as well, or not now, it's possible internally in a private preview, but shortly as well in a public preview. And in the end, I have some slides that like stage it in some timeline manners, what you can expect soon, what will be available. So in terms of performance, I already alluded a little bit to that, but this is what we did internally to test the staging and registration process. So again, staging is attaching the disk to the session host, and registration means register the MSIX package to the session host. So basically the AppX package, the MSIX registration. So the manifest file loads into the session host, and staging is just do the pre-work to do that. So as you can see here, that is pretty fast. So users won't like notice or have to wait for that because it mounts it. You don't have to pre-cache it. So no write cache disk whatsoever is needed. You just mount the disk and then you can directly use it from there. You only need to make sure that the latency to the storage environment and as well the amount of IOPS are proactively sized. So it depends, of course, which type of application, how many IOPS and how many load that will proceed. So for example, if you use like an kind of an AutoCAD Revit application that you package with MSIX app attach, that is way more intense than just using Notepad, for example, Notepad++. But what you can see here is as well some insights around the new SimFS file format container performance in comparison to VHD. So the average mount time of VHD in conjunction with MSIX app attach is around 356 milliseconds, and with SimFS, it's almost like 50% of that, half of that, and that's way faster, of course. And if you do that on a larger enterprise scale, that can save you a lot of resources on the consumption on your session host. Same for unmounting, or not same in terms of 50% less, but way more less. It's like in a snap. Memory consumption is with VHD higher as well, and that's because this format of VHD. Oh, let me go back here. That format is created like VHD is created. I don't know. I think 12 15 years ago. It was originally part around like Windows Server 2008 and has not been improved that much. And SimFS is a relatively new file format and completely optimized based on the operating systems that we have today. So that's something you can see here, of course. And CPU spikes is sometimes happening as well with that mounting process and yeah, really specific to the staging process of the VHD, because there's something happening where CPU utilization is needed to do that VHD mounting process. And with SimFS, there's no real impact. It just happens, and there's no CPU impact based on that. So as I said, no PowerShell is needed anymore to do the registration and everything. It's all consolidated inside the agent. With like MSIX App Attach itself, once that is available in the Azure portal, something that you can do as well is configure everything via PowerShell. So do the registration or the creation or automation of configuring MSIX App Attach inside Windows Virtual Desktop. That will all be available as well via PowerShell. So if you want to package your application, automate it, and you want to do from A to Z as well the configuration via PowerShell, you can do that as well. So the PowerShell CMD lists that you can see over here are released in the latest PowerShell module of Windows Virtual Desktop. So that happened 3 days ago or something. So you can already see those, but you don't have access to the Azure portal yet, and that's something that will happen very soon from now. So let me share some other stuff as well around Azure Files. Azure Files is a service where you can store your SMB, your file storage data on. So for example, your Azure Profile container, but as well MSIX App Attach packages. And Azure Files and Azure has 6 months ago gone GA with AD authentication support. So you can create a storage account there and create an Azure Files share, and then join that storage account to your Active Directory domain, and then use just as a normal SMB share, ACLs and writes and delegated access just to store your SMB data on. And that's fairly easy to do so. The performance is very good as well. And if you want to use that for MSIX App Attach, this is the command that you can use to join your storage account to the domain. So you can find it, of course, of docs as well. And if you then are ready and that succeeded, you will see your domain popping up as part of your storage account, and then you can basically talk in the same kind of language as you normally do on an SMB share, where you have to maintain the backend yourself. With Azure Files, you leverage your platform as a service solution. So everything that you see and have to configure is what you see over here in the Azure portal, but the backend and everything is managed and maintained for you as part of the Microsoft SLA, the service that we provide with Azure Files. So configuration can happen via IAM roles. You can do that via the GUI. You can do it via PowerShell as well. And that the IAM roles are basically representing the share permissions in the share itself. So you have, of course, as you most likely know, when you present a file share, you have share permissions and NTFS permissions. And what you set up here are the share permissions, and then after that, when you're ready, when you have the share permissions, automatically everybody gets like full control, and then you can modify while you have that permission on the share permission to an admin, for example. You can change the NTFS ACLs afterwards to make it more secure, of course, and you can just set the same ones that we use for other profile solutions, and we give as a best practice for Azure Logics on-prem, for example, with the create owner and all those different sets. And when you're done with it, you can copy your VHDs, your MSIX App Attach containers, and then start configuring everything in that Azure portal and use that new Azure File share in there as a baseline, and then it automatically detects. If you set up the rights correctly, as I said earlier, you can start creating and detect applications. One thing that I want to remark here, you have as well the option to put multiple applications inside of VHD. That depends, of course, how large you want to make it, and if you want to consolidate it separately, because if you want to do an update, you need to open up those other applications as well. So sometimes it's better to just keep it separate and separate VHDs, but sometimes when you have an application that has a plugin or another application that is already always used together, you can consolidate those in like one VHDX as well. So we will release more best practices around that once we go into GA. So I hear you saying, what about AppV? Is AppV going to die, or is there a future for AppV? So I made some bullet points around AppV and what like the future of AppV is over here in this list. So AppV is continuing to ship. So there's no set date for depreciation, as you might know. So we are not constantly like developing AppV anymore, only for like real fixes or something like that. So real innovation is not happening in that product anymore, and that is more happening, or is happening, to MSIX. So MSIX is the future of AppV, so to say, and app attach, as I said earlier, is the way how we can leverage MSIX on a virtual environment, because it's more efficient. You don't have to do pre-caching. So all those benefits will be added with the app attach kind of module to MSIX. So just to frame that, we have, as part of the MSIX packaging tool, conversions available, so you can merge existing AppV packages into MSIX. That's possible today to do. There are some great partners as well that can do that work for you. So think about, for example, a company called Rimo Tree. They are completely focused on that migration path. They do smoke testing and all those stuff to make it easier for you to use their software to do that merging from AppV to MSIX. So you don't have to do and go down the reach yourself to make that possible. So sometimes you get questions, of course. I use AppV, should I stop? I haven't deployed AppV, what should I do, for example? So of course, AppV is still supported, so you can just continue using that. There's no blocking date or reason not to do so. But if you want to really prepare your on-prem environment or your existing traditional VDI infrastructure more to like the future, I would say maybe start using MSIX already for like new applications that you package. So start from, for example, next week when you have a new application that you need to package with MSIX, and mix those together. For example, the Advantic solution from Bram. Bram Roelofs is a great Dutch community guy as well, which you all know most likely because he's a currently attender of E3. He has a tool, the AppV scheduler, which is now called Advantic, and you can use AppV and MSIX and MSIX app attach in conjunction all together and mix those together. So you only have to make sure that the operating system that you're using is supported for, of course, MSIX and AppV. AppV is not so difficult, but MSIX, yeah, you need to have 20 or 4 at least. So keep that in the back of your head. So one thing that I would like to share as well, Tim Mangan, which you probably all know as well, he created an ebook, or like a white paper / ebook, and he released it yesterday together with Bogdan and Kevin. And that's a very comprehensive book, which goes over the concepts, best practices, very down in the weeds to help people that are in the same situation. We use AppV, we want to use MSIX, but what are the steps? What are the fundamental steps that we have to take? What is the conversion? How does it work? And that's all possible to use here, or possible to read here and to learn here for free, because this book is available for free. So I put in quickly here a QR code that you can scan that goes directly to this page. You can look Tim up as well on Twitter and give him a retweet, because it's really appreciated, of course, that he and the other 2 team members give this available for free. So almost nearing the end. I think I'll have 4 more minutes officially, but yeah, it's E3, right? So let's see how far or where we end today. I made some frequently asked questions, because I think you have some questions on, okay, MSIX app attach, can I use it here? Can I use it there? Or what does it mean? So the first question that we frequently get is, can I use Appetite outside Windows Virtual Desktop? The answer is yes. MSIX is just part of the core operating system, so MSIX can be used on any cloud or on-prem environment, private cloud environment. Appetite, however, that's first being developed specifically for Windows Virtual Desktop. So the Azure Portal integration is only for Windows Virtual Desktop, but the PowerShell modules that are available right now for the public preview, the early public preview, you can apply those as well in your on-prem environment. So if you want to push the developments for example, on-prem or support for Windows Server, and that's the other question that I put up here. Does support for Windows Server come for MSIX Appetite? There's an user voice. If you go to uservoice.windowsvirtualdesktop.com, there's an entry and like feedback item that's created by, I don't know who it is, but you can vote on that, and if we gather such amount of votes, we start developing the work for Windows Server as well for MSIX Appetite. So please go to that page and vote over there to make sure that we see the need for that, and then eventually start developing that. Other question, which operating systems support MSIX Appetite? So I already shared that earlier. That's Windows 10, 20, 04 and higher, and that includes Windows 10 Enterprise, single session, and as well multi-session, of course. So that's the questions that I have here. Let me, before we wrap up, share one thing more before I open up for other questions that you might have. Before we wrap up, I just want to emphasize that MSIX is the deployment technically moving forward. So whether that's like within a year or so, or 2 years or 5 years, this is what we as Microsoft set as a milestone. So you will see more and more consolidation with other products. Intune is already supported with MSIX. Perhaps MSIX Appetite will be supported in the future with Intune as well. I'm not making any promises here, but could be something. So yeah, keep that in the back of your head while making those decisions. So when will MSIX Appetite via the Azure portal for Windows Virtual Desktop be available? So here are some milestones that we have. So the MSIX tooling, SDK, and APIs, that is currently already available as part of MSIX. The integration, SimFS, and the Azure portal, which you can see, which I just presented, are available inside Microsoft already as part of a private preview. But we are currently doing some bug fixing to make it as well available for public preview. So hopefully that will happen next month. It should have been happened this month, to be frank, but there were some bugs fixed or bugs found that has to be fixed beforehand. So stay tuned for that. Follow Stefan Georgiev as well. He's the PM. Dedicated to work on this initiative. So he's one great person to follow. You can follow me as well, of course. I will most likely share what he shares as well. So the private preview is coming, and or is already happening, and the public preview is coming very soon, hopefully before the end of the year, as part of a sort of Christmas present for all of you. So with that, I would like to perhaps open it up for some questions, and thank you very much for attending today.